My name is Sylvia Gathoni. I go by the name Quinaro. I'm an esports athlete. Game of specialization is Tekken 7. I also happen to be a content creator. I'm currently signed to UYU, an esports organization in North America. I also happen to be a member of this year's Forbes 30 Under 30 class of 2022. Gaming is mostly meant to be a form of escapism, a place where you can just enjoy and have fun. But gaming of late has also become a huge industry because a lot of people nowadays have ventured into esports, which is the professional playing of video games. I think games like Call of Duty, think games like Tekken, think games like Mortal Kombat and FIFA, just to mention for you. So, just to mention a few. So, I happen to be in this esports industry as a professional player or esports athlete, which is the term I prefer to use. Since I started my career in 2017, it's been quite an interesting journey. Initially, I didn't even set out to become some professional esports athlete, that is. I just started playing professional because I just thought it was fun. But I think the fact that I happened to come in 4th place at my first tournament, it kind of gave me that, I'd say, drive to continue competing at the highest levels. So it's been quite an interesting journey. I didn't really expect that I'd experience this level of success that I currently have. My first professional tournament was in 2017. I remember I was playing Mortal Kombat. The event was at the East African Gaming Convention. I'd say it was interesting. I was nervous, I'm not gonna lie, because I was pitted against other players and who happened to be more experienced in at the game. So the fact that I put my best out there and I came in 4th was, let's say, super motivating. It gave me that drive to continue. Continue wanting to engage with this space and see how far I could go as a player. But since then, I've transitioned from Mortal Kombat. I now play Tekken. That transition from Mortal Kombat to Tekken, it was quite a difficult one because Mortal Kombat happens to be a 2D fighting game and Tekken happens to be 3D and happens to be one of the most technical and difficult fighting games out there. So I had to learn proper fundamental Tekken. That meant movement, punishment, character knowledge, frame data. And Tekken is a game that happens to reward legacy gameplay, meaning the people who've been playing earlier iterations of the game will have an easier time at it. The experience will speak for itself. So it was really frustrating at some point. I felt like I don't even know why I'm doing this. But eventually I started to understand, but I still had to bridge that knowledge gap in that even as that knowledge gap is being bridged, the more experienced players they're still leveling up. So it was still kind of frustrating trying to, I keep having to play catch up. So, but it's something I wouldn't really change it for the world. I know things will get easier even as I continue to practice and work hard at the game. I can't really say for sure what I did or to bridge that knowledge gap, because playing Tekken as a kid, no one really thought that we'd actually be having a whole esports industry. But so it was just about pressing buttons, and I think that's what a lot of the viewers back home can relate to, just pressing buttons. But Tekken 7 happens to be my first I'd say a proper fighting game. The problem with Tekken is it doesn't have a tutorial mode, so there's no set way for you to learn the game properly. You have to go to YouTube and learn what the other experienced players are doing. But I'd say if there's to be a proper layout, I think you'd have to like, first choose the, the character that you vibe with the most. Then, learning everything, learning your character's strengths and weaknesses, and, learning I'd say their best moves, like the best moves that apply to, in line with their strengths and weaknesses, and you go from there. Yeah, you're right when you say that there's more to gaming than just sitting down and playing and locking out the rest of the world. There's a reason why I use the term esports athlete. At the end of the day, in as much as I'm playing video games professionally, I still need to treat my body and mind as a temple, and it's easier said than done. I still have to eat right. I still have to work out and make sure that my physical and mental health aren't compromised in as much as I want to reach newer levels and heights as a player. So, and also keeping in mind that I'm still also a student, so I think gaming is meant to make, and professional gaming, that is meant to make you be a better person overall, be a more disciplined person. So, that means, as I said, eating right, working out regularly, setting time to practice, setting time for your books, and being the best and most disciplined version of yourself. When it comes to these issues of addiction, that's been a phrase that's been used to discredit what we in the gaming and esports industry do. But I feel that it tends to be a disingenuous kind of point, because addictions can occur from anything. It doesn't have to be necessarily just games. You can be addicted to drugs, you can be addicted to TV, you can be addicted to your phone, you can be addicted to work. As in, we have the term workaholics for a reason, so are we going to tell people to stop working all in the name of preventing addiction, as you've put it? I think to try and mitigate such issues, it's an issue of having these discussions as we're doing right now, as well as this is something I've always told people when it comes to trying to maintain a balance. It's about prioritizing what is important to you. I tell myself when it's time to study, I at least try to put 2 hours into my books. When it comes to playing, I try to do the same. And I also try to remind myself, the magnitude of sacrifice, like my parents have gone through to put me through school, and the magnitude of sacrifice that I've made to reach the point that I am right now. So that's what I do to at least make sure that I strike a balance. And as a player, I want to be among the greatest. So I try to remind myself that in as much as I'm playing, I also to create time to eat right. I also put 30 minutes into working out, and so on and so forth. The environment for female esports athletes, I'd say, is, I don't say that it's just a Kenyan thing, but to be honest, we have an inclusivity and diversity problem in the esports industry. That's something that's being actively worked on, but I feel that there's more that can be done to ensure that we create a safe space for women and other minorities in the space. Because you hear a lot of times that women have gone through harassment and sexism before, something that they can't really help about themselves. I didn't choose to be born a female. And I've never really gotten why, gaming is a male-dominated space. But, as I said, for the aforementioned reasons, sexism and harassment, I don't think anyone wants to really deal with that kind of nonsense. And I feel that at some point, this is something I've not only told you, but I keep telling other media houses I've done interviews with, I think it's about time that we women stopped being asked about our experiences in this space, because it kind of comes off as gaslighting. We need to stop being asked about the how of our experiences and how we get harassed. It's about time we started asking the dominant demographic, who happen to be the men, what they're doing to prevent these incidences of harassment and sexism, what they're doing to hold space for women and other minorities. There's a lot that needs to be done. For one, kick out the bad apples who give all of you a bad name. Stop tolerating nonsense. If you see someone making some questionable remarks, deal with them. Number two, I think when it comes to the marketing of games and tournaments, try to be as mindful and as inclusive of women and other minorities in the space. Because a lot of the times you see the posters of some of the games and and even these tournaments, a lot of them are geared towards men, and it's not that they have this nefarious plan to be exclusive of women and other minorities, but it's just they haven't really put much thought about it, and they need to be as deliberate as possible. And on top of that, try to include women in and the other minorities in leadership positions, and deliberately ask what can we do to what can we do better. I think there've been like several points I've reached that like that place, like I just question like what am I really doing here. Number one is learning, as I said, learning Tekken has been the most difficult thing I've ever had to do, because nobody likes losing in tournaments, and when you lose in tournaments and when you force yourself to go to practice mode and re-examine what went wrong, maybe during a match or during a tournament, it forces you to like confront your insecurities and I'd say your shortcomings as a player, like and confronting that takes a lot of, I'd say, courage, and not just for me but for any other player, be it male or female. So confronting such insecurities and shortcomings is tough, very, very tough. But I think when you have, I'd say, a sort of a support, I'd say a support group, and friendships from players who they've been there and they're willing to help you get out of that rut, it's very encouraging. Then I'd say the time is when I had to. Last year I dealt with some very, I'd say, unfortunate incidents of sexism and harassment, and as I said, it was a very painful and bitter experience, because it made me feel like I'm an outsider, I'm not welcome, and it had been something that it had been going on for a while, and it was, as I said, painful, and it made me question like, why am I even here? I haven't like really gone through that since a lot of where the trolling and harassment tends to occur is in the first-person shooter games. The fighting game community luckily tends to be a bit more accommodating, though it still has its own drama, but not as terrible as with the FPS shooters. I think it's because it's something that's been normalized in the industry. Like when someone calls you racial slurs or calls you trash or attacks you, both genders get it. But people have normalized it. It's just how the gaming and esports industry is. But because I want to also talk from my experiences as a woman, I think it tends to be worse. Because when you, let's say, use your microphone and then they hear a feminine voice, now they go for that to attack you as to maybe why you lost the game. They attribute somehow that your gender is why you lost. You're trash because you're a girl. That kind of nonsense. Yeah.
So what should you advocate for people who are going through it? Like, what is the next step to take after this has happened to me?
I'd say the steps that need to be taken is that the publishers and developers, which I am happy to say that I've been trying to take these deliberate steps to weed out this nonsense. But I think they need to be deliberate. They need to stop being accommodative of such kind of behavior, because it paints the entire industry in a bad light. And I wouldn't blame anyone who doesn't want to be involved in gaming and esports as a result of this behavior being normalized. They need to take stern action. If it's someone who, let's say it's a troll who happens to also be participating in tournaments, ban them. Don't allow them to partake in, ban their ISP, ban them from participating in professional tournaments. True, as I said, I think having the insight of more women and other minorities in leadership could also be another step, because they may be able to offer better insights. And I think the overall root of this problem is the industry is still yet to acknowledge that there's a problem. They haven't acknowledged that there's a problem in how we treat minorities. There's a problem in how we accommodate trolling and this kind of harassment and toxicity. The moment we start to acknowledge these problems is when I'd say we'd be able to take the first steps towards a more sustainable solution. Gaming in Kenya is still a very niche industry, but it's something that's growing slowly but steadily. People are starting to be more aware of the industry as a whole, that more people can get in either game development, being esports athletes and so on. But there's still a lot of roadblocks that prevent, I'd say, us reaching the heights that we can reach. For the laws on the book that we have on the books right now describe gaming as equivalent to gambling. That can be seen with the Betting and Lotteries Act of 1966, the Consumer Protection Act of 2013. The word gaming has been synonymous with gambling, and it gives the wider society that impression that when you talk about gaming and esports, like, is that gambling? That's the first thing a lot of people, and even the older generation, will go. That's the path their thoughts will take. And I think that our legislators need to change those laws and to make it equivalent, to make it synonymous with video games and esports as well. Number two, we don't have say widespread ISP infrastructure there, but I'm happy to say, like, Safaricom, Liquid Technologies, they've been trying to do what they can to make sure that the internet infrastructure is widespread throughout the country. Moreover, I feel that the current punitive tax regime that we live under needs to be changed, because it makes gaming and esports the preserve of the wealthy. And I think the moment that we have the taxes reduced to make sure that we can accommodate people of all classes, and so much so that they can actually afford the peripherals and consoles that they need to thrive at the highest levels of play. I think we'd have more engagement with in the esports fraternity, and also we need to create a consistent tournament culture. And I think to make sure that tournaments are part and parcel of what we do here, and we can actually compete and become world-class players, I think tournament organization needs to take a grassroots approach, not just doing one major tournament, one and done kind of tournaments. I'm not going to be participating because I'm actually participating in the Commonwealth Esports Forum, which will be preceding the games. So I'm not going to be going there as a player, I'm going there more as a thought leader. I was nominated to the Athletes, Players and Communities Commission. I was nominated by my mentor Shayo Olabi from Nigeria. He leads the Lagos Esports Forum. So he thought that I'd be a good fit with my experiences in the esports industry, and the GEF has been nothing but an amazing experience, because it allows me to share my thoughts on how best the African region can be represented on the wider esports stage. So the APC is actually led by the Vice President Charmaine Crooks from Canada. So it's been amazing sharing the platform and the stage with big esports athletes that I never thought I'd be rubbing shoulders with. And as I said, it allows me to represent the African region as a whole and make sure that we at least get proper representation. Yeah, so it's nothing short of an honor, to be honest. It's actually given me food for thought on how best, when esports athletes retire, how best can we continue to serve the communities, that we are a part of. That's usually the bigger question, because We talk about being involved in the space, but we don't really talk about what comes next after. Yeah, that's part of it. Moreover, it also allowed me to ask, how best can we ensure genuine African representation. And it's actually amazing to hear that a lot of these guys want to hear African stories, but we tend to keep being marginalized in the gaming and esports fraternity. Yeah. The thing is this: anybody who's involved as an active esports athlete right now, they're not going to be playing their respective games for the rest of their days. I sure won't be playing Tekken forever. And we need to start thinking about the bigger picture, because a lot of us, we've had several experiences, and we need to give back to the next generation to make sure that they have an easier path than what we had coming up. So that means being policymakers, being coaches, or being in marketing, or just serving the esports industry and the gaming industry in one way or the other. We need to start looking for sustainable methods to do that. I'm actually thinking of also branching out, but I need to make sure that's something that I'll be able to handle, because I'm still planning on playing Tekken, because I'm sure a lot of us in the Tekken community are waiting for the next iteration, Tekken 8. I'm actually thinking of maybe potentially King of Fighters or 15 or Street Fighter 6, which is going to be released next year. So it's just something I'm pondering on, but I'm sure I'll have made a decision.